Okay, hi everyone and welcome to the next class. Now this one is a biggie for me. We are going to learn to question our beliefs. So in today's class, you are going to learn how to question your beliefs. You're going to learn why it's important to question our beliefs, and you're going to learn how it's going to be helpful to you in your life and the stressful beliefs that you're dealing with. So let's get going. At the heart of CBT is this idea that we question our beliefs, question our thinking. Now the journey we've gone on so far is I've helped you to begin to isolate what your rigid beliefs are. And as we go on, I'm going to help you guys find out more unhealthy beliefs that you're holding. But what I wanted to do today was begin helping you to see and giving you tools and techniques to begin questioning your beliefs. I'm not going to leave it till the end so you can get going with questioning your beliefs today and begin making progress in the issues and challenges you're dealing with. Now, this idea of questioning our beliefs comes from ancient philosophy. It comes from Buddhism, it comes from Greek philosophy, from Stoic philosophy. This idea to question our thoughts. It really is at the heart of self-inquiry, and it's a really important part of therapy and CBT in general. I'm going to talk to you about scientific theory and the scientific method. Now, why does science work? Science is evidence-based. What does that mean? A scientist or someone has an idea and they say, I believe this. And what they do is they go and they find evidence to support or not to support what they are saying. And in science, if you find the evidence, that's great. And once you've got the evidence, everyone else or the other scientists can come and support what you have found out. On the flip side, if you don't find evidence to support it, and if other scientists don't agree, then you have to throw that out. It's evidence-based. And that's why the scientific method works so well. It really works. Now, here's the thing. For most of us, although we think we live by the laws of science, when it comes to our own thinking, we don't really follow the scientific method. The scientific method asks that we find evidence to support what we believe. But how often do you ask yourself the question, well, how do I know what I believe is true? In reality, things are very different, aren't they? Now, for human beings, most of us believe what we think. We believe that our thoughts are reality. Now, the thing about being human is that we are always limited from our own perspective. The way the world looks to me is different to the way the world looks to somebody else. We come from different backgrounds, we come from different experiences, we've been taught different things. We have a different view of reality. We have a different point of view. And literally, we all even have to stand on a point when we're looking at something. Our body is in a different place. So we all have our own point of view. But as human beings, we like to think that what I think, what I believe is true. We think that what we think is the truth. And in reality, that's not totally true, is it? Because it's how it seems to me. It's how it occurs to me. But can we be totally 100% sure, 100% certain that what we believe is true? That's the big question. For example, in our previous video, we were looking at rules and assumptions. And what you're going to begin to find is that most of the rules and assumptions that we believe, they're just not true. They might be partially true, but they're not totally true. For example, if I had the belief that if I speak up, I am going to get in trouble. Now, you might think that's true, but the evidence will tell you, well, you can't know that for sure unless you test your idea. You might think that other people don't like you. Now, maybe they don't, but you don't know for sure. You've got to test it. It's just an idea. You might think that somebody doesn't like you or they don't love you. Again, that's just an idea. You haven't tested it yet. You haven't looked at the evidence. You might think, as we covered last time, I must not make any mistakes. If I do, I'm going to get in trouble. Now, is that really true? Can you know that for sure? Now, the whole journey, the whole process of CBT is to do with helping you to unpick all of the stuff that you believe. Because most of it is not true. Most of it is partially true. But as human beings, we have this thing where we just react and we believe what we think. And it's not cool, really. I mean, it's what we do, but it's kind of stressful and it gets us in a lot of difficult situations. Now, in Buddhism, they have this idea called reserving judgment, which is basically saying, hey, look, I don't know everything right now. I'm going to see if I can find out more, if there's more to learn. But at its root cause, as human beings, when we think something, we think we know it for sure. And all that CBT is saying is, hey, hold on a moment. Let's have a look. Let's have a look for the evidence. How do you know that? I mean, these are good questions and they can save you a lot of stress and irritation. So let's look at some of the best ways that you can begin to question what you believe. Now, here's the biggie. Here's the basic question. And that question is it true? I know it sounds pretty basic and whatever, but it is very important question. What evidence do you have? If you think that you shouldn't make any mistakes, what evidence have you got to support that? If you think you shouldn't be vulnerable with people, what evidence have you got to support that? Now, is it true? The next question, is it totally true? For sure, you're going to find some reasons why something is true, but are there any reasons that prove it is not always true? Because in CBT, when we believe that something is totally true, we have an absolute view. And we believe that it's true at all times and in all situations. It is universally true. And when we look at reasons why it's not true, or why it's not totally true, then we begin to call it a partial truth. And when something becomes a partial truth, it's not so scary, it's not so difficult, it's not so emotional. What we're building is a sense of nuance, a sense of, well, maybe it's not a black or a white situation, maybe it's something in between. And asking yourself questions like, is it true? What evidence have you got to support it? But what evidence have you got to prove it wrong? Now, this is one of my favorites. Imagine that you are in a court of law and you have to prove your opinion. And imagine you have to get up there and say, this is the case. Would your opinion carry in a court of law? Would you get through everything? Would it work? What would the prosecution say? What evidence would they use to debunk what you think? And would that evidence stand up? Would what you believe stand up in a court of law? If you had a belief about yourself that you're useless or no good, would that stand up in a court of law? Would you be able to find no evidence to prove that that wasn't true all the time? If you believe that your life was a failure, would that stand up in a court of law? Would you be able to prove that your life was a failure in a court of law? And what evidence would the opposition use to prove you wrong? What kind of questions would the jury ask you to say whether it's true or not? So this question is so important. And most of the stuff that we believe, as I mentioned before, would not stand up in a court of law. Think about all of those rigid beliefs and all those rules and assumptions I covered. There are many of them. Is it true that I must not let anyone down? Is that true? That's not totally true. We're gonna let people down now and again. That's just how it is. Is it true that people should listen to me all the time? No, it's not true. Is it true that people mustn't think badly of me? Is that true? No. Most of what you believe isn't true. And the quicker you can start mapping out your beliefs and your thoughts for the different things that you're dealing with, the better we can start questioning them. One of my favorite ways of debunking what I believe is saying, well, is there a book of life? Is there somewhere where it just gives you the answer? Is there a universal truth where it says what you should or shouldn't do? The answer is there is no universal truth. We might have heard it from people. We might have heard it from our parents. We might have heard those beliefs from different people in our life, but does it say anywhere that most of our stressful thinking is true or not? And the answer is no. Now, as we go on the course, I want you to begin and carry on using these questions to begin questioning those rigid beliefs and those unhealthy thoughts. We're going to be covering a lot of thoughts and different types of thought forms over the next few weeks. And what I want you to do is begin just saying, is it true? Is my belief true? What evidence have I got? If I was in a court of law, would it stand up to investigation? What evidence would the opposition give? What would the jury say? What would they ask? Would it stand up? And most of the time, it doesn't. Just doesn't. Is there a universal truth? Is this something that everyone has the same belief? Does everyone see things the same way? The answer is no. There is no universal book of life. that tells you that all your unhealthy, rigid beliefs are true. It's just not that way. We are limited by our perspective, by our perception. And when we see things and when we think things, we think they are relevant to us, but they're not universally true, and they're not true in all situations all the time. So, good luck on your journey. Stay with me, because in the next video, we're going to cover more questions to help you question your rigid beliefs. Stay with me.